So you're thinking about making the move to Whitmore Lake, Michigan? Probably not, or you're one of the few people that actually know about it. Either way, you're about to learn a thing or two, and this is worth sticking around for. For those of you that don't know, Whitmore Lake, Michigan isn't just a lake somewhere in Metro Detroit. It's actually an unincorporated community between Brighton and Ann Arbor that's just over 6 square miles in size with a population of under 8,000 people. And when you try to look up information about it, there's not a lot going on. So as someone who has grown up near there, listed and sold houses in the community, and have friends near and on Whitmore Lake, I figured I could give you an idea what this area is all about. Oh, and if you're new here, my name is Andrew McManaman with Living in Michigan, a licensed realtor in the Five-Mitten State, and I've helped people all over the world move to and from here, so if you ever need anything, just let me know. If you've done some loose research on the area, you might be wondering, is it as serene as it sounds? Will you find the perfect balance of nature and convenience, or will you be spending your days battling traffic and searching for anything to do on a Friday night? I'm going to answer all those questions and more, as well as tackle the good and bad about living in Whitmore Lake, Michigan. Kicking off with the good things about Whitmore Lake, Michigan, as you might be able to guess it already, its location. I mean, it's extremely underrated, let's be honest. Imagine being dead center between Brighton and Ann Arbor, where you can go 10 miles or so north to Brighton and 12 to 15 miles south to Ann Arbor. I have several videos about these two areas, of course, that I will link in the description as well for you, but the beauty of this is you get the amenities of both areas without living in one area over the other. You can get that night out on the town and that feeling of a downsized metro area with Ann Arbor, but you can also get the small town of Brighton, where the atmosphere is completely opposite if you aren't feeling as frisky. On top of that, you also have public access to Whitmore Lake with just a recreational pass under Michigan's DNR, which is an awesome bonus because no matter where you are in Whitmore Lake, you are always just a stone's throw from the lake itself. But like I have talked about in lake communities, is they don't really have a downtown space, since the community aspect is just the relationship that is built around the lake. But Whitmore Lake has a downtown too. Which brings us into the next good thing, and that's the downtown. And if you're someone who lives in Whitmore Lake right now, you might be thinking, that's a stretch. What downtown are you talking about? And I hear you, but there is quite a few offerings that solidify the community aspect we all want to lean more on these days. For example, looking at an image of the lake overhead, southwest of the lake, there is Main Street that goes along the lake all the way up until the road ends into residential living on a canal. From the south side of Main Street to the most northern end of the street, you'll pass a nursing home, a fire station, apartments, self-storage, Whitmore Lanes, a bowling alley, went there a few times back in my day actually, a cannabis store, a small market, Marco's Pizza, a salon, a memorabilia store, a community park, the Whitmore Lake Tavern, a gas station, auto parts place, Captain Joe's Grill, then some hotels and the boat ramp. It's not a wild variety by any means, but when I think lake communities, I think about that boutique liquor store that sits at the end of the road or beginning of the community that sort of kind of carries everything, but a bottle of ketchup is like $10. I can see some of you shaking your heads in agreement when you live in a lake community like that. Despite having a few offerings, it's only 10 minutes away from the Green Oak Village place in Brighton, but it's just a few seconds, it seems, from M36, which if you watch my Pinckney, Michigan video, you'd be familiar with this. But there's also an extension of offerings there, from stores and restaurants to gas stations, future ball, paintball, and garden centers. The next pro is the lake itself. Just a little backstory about the actual lake that is the heart of this community called Whitmore Lake. It's 667 acres in size, just under 70 feet deep, and it sits in 2 counties. The northern chunk of the lake is in the southeast corner of Livingston County in Green Oak Township, and the southern chunk of the lake is in northern Washtenaw County in Northfield Township, which is important to note as I touch on some further points too, so keep that in mind. Whitmore Lake actually doesn't have an outlet or natural inlet, and the Washtenaw Drain Commission pumps water into the lake from the nearby Horseshoe Lake outlet. It's an all-sports lake, of course, and filled with bluegill, sunfish, largemouth bass, perch, smallmouth, some crappie, pike, and there was actually a tiger muskie reported in 1992 in a survey as well. Just for all you fishing folks out there, this lake tends to be predator poor, which means a lot of the smaller species of fish can actually grow quite a bit larger because they're not getting beat up on. The public access, of course, allows you to do all the kayaking, the swimming, the canoeing, and other water sports too. Everybody loves a lake community, let's be honest. Switching gears to the next pro, I want to touch on home prices, property taxes, and give you a sense of where the home prices and property taxes are most expensive and least expensive, and how the schools play a role as well. First and foremost, like I mentioned, Whitmore Lake is cut in half horizontally almost, with Livingston County on the northern chunk and Washtenaw County on the southern chunk. So with that in mind, taking a look at this graph provided by the multiple listing service, it shows Green Oak Township in yellow, Northfield Township in green, and the Whitmore Lake School District in blue. And the reason the school district is there is because when you do a home search on the MLS or do property tax calculations, Whitmore Lake won't be on there because it is an unincorporated community. So instead, you use Northfield Township and Green Oak Township to calculate the taxes, depending if you're looking on the north or south side of the lake. This graph is the average sale price over the last 3 years, and you can see how the Whitmore Lake School District is just under $380,000, Northfield Township is just over $426,000, and Green Oak Township is just over $455,000. Keep in mind, Green Oak Township is 36.7 square miles in size and covers a good chunk of Brighton, so that's why the price tag is a little higher. And Northfield Township also is over 36 square miles in size, covering portions of South Lyon and Ann Arbor as well. As of recording this, I compiled 60 results for homes that are active, pending, and sold in the Whitmore Lake area, ranging from a $45,000 manufactured home in the Northfield Estates mobile home community with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, just over 1,500 square feet and built in 1987 but remodeled in 2023. This community is located just west of US 23 and the lake, and then we go all the way up to a $995,000 craftsman style home located south of Whitmore Lake and All Sports Horseshoe Lake with 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, 4,000 total square feet, built just 2 years ago with a 5-car garage and situated on 0.18 acres. Over the last 60 days, there were 3 active pending and sold homes on the waterfronts, one being just under the $1 million like I talked about, and the 2 are situated on Whitmore Lake. One is active for $450,000 and the other is sold on the opposite side of the lake for $430,000, which in today's market is not bad for a lake home, unfortunately. And you might be thinking, well, it's got to be a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom cottage that couldn't fit my things, let alone someone else's. And actually, that's why the home prices in Whitmore Lake are a pro on this list, because there are 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes with over 1,500 square feet, a 2-car garage, and situated on about a 1/4 acre with 37 feet of water frontage with that price tag. This home doesn't have to be just for weekend getaways. You can live in it full time. With that being said, I wanted to show you this map of homes actively sold and pending over the last 3 years that are waterfront on Whitmore Lake. As you can see, the prices range quite a bit as I hover over them, but not too much from north, south, east, and west. Okay, so how does property taxes and schools play a role in all this? Well, let's just say the people on the northern end of the lake are paying less in taxes and they have the ability to go to Brighton area schools, which are among the top ranked in the area. On the north side of the lake, you can go to Brighton, Whitmore Lake, or South Lyon schools. On the south side, you can go to Dexter, Ann Arbor, South Lyon, or Whitmore Lake schools. Living in Washtenaw County on the south side averages a millage rate, it's a rate to calculate property taxes, of 33 to 41 mills. Livingston County, on the other hand, on the north side, has millage rates ranging from 28 to 33 mills, which may not seem like a lot, but in a world full of costs, savings is nice. So, what's the perfect scenario? Living on the north side in Green Oak Township and going to Brighton area schools, since the millage rate is the lowest of them all at 28.1613. But what's the worst case scenario? And that's living in Northfield Township and going to Whitmore Lake schools, since the millage rate is 41.3278. But keep in mind, it depends on the home price too, since Green Oak has cheaper taxes but more expensive homes, while Northfield Township has higher taxes and less expensive homes. Some other notable rankings for Whitmore Lake, Michigan from niche.com data: the area ranks number 15 best places to raise a family in Washtenaw County, number 98 of 336 suburbs with the best public schools in Michigan, number 105 of 338 best suburbs for young professionals in Michigan, and number 132 of 620 places with the best public schools in Michigan. After touching on all the good things about the area, I wanted to talk about the not so good things too. Kicking it off with the first, I'd say there's just not a lot to do, despite me stating how different it is from other lake communities. But if you aren't a lake person, there's not a lot of amenities that cater to you very much. You don't have the shopping malls or the endless nature offerings, and I'd have to say that's the biggest complaint I hear from current and past residents who have lived in the area. But they do enjoy the fact that they are close to other communities, like I said, Brighton and Ann Arbor. People just felt like they were jumping into another community without feeling a part of their own. The next con that holds very true right now, and that's the traffic. People are really clogging on and off ramps and the roundabouts near the expressways to avoid the mess that is going on US 23 right now. The plus side to this is there's a road that stretches along both sides of the expressway called Whitmore Lake Road on the west side and Fieldcrest on the east side. But the downside is they get off at the Whitmore Lake exit right now to hop on those, and it can get a little congested. With traffic in mind, there's also the complaint about people just driving way too fast. When you make your rounds around Whitmore Lake, there are some houses that are on the other side of the lake but have docks on the other side, such as East Shore Drive, for example, and people fly around winding roads when people are crossing to get to their docks. This also plays a role in the next con too, and that's the fact that houses are very tight next to each other along the lake, and there's hardly a driveway to pull into, so everything just feels a little snug, and you can't just have a line of cars along the road when you have to have a bunch of people to entertain on the lake, because you would just be overclogging the roads. You'd be parking in front of someone else's driveway at that point. And of course, if you're a lake homeowner in Michigan, you understand that's kind of how it is in a lot of the lake communities, but for people that are new to it, you might be someone who wants a little bit more room to breathe. The homes may be on a quarter of an acre, but the lots are extremely skinny where the homes are almost along the property lines on both sides. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're thinking about making the move on a lake there or anywhere, for example. The last con I wanted to tackle are the schools. Despite having some options in that department, if we just narrow in on Whitmore Lake schools, they are not ranked very highly according to US News, greatschools.org, and a few more sources. And I think when there's hype about the schools around Whitmore Lake, they were referring to Brighton, Ann Arbor, or South Lyon, which they have all the right to because they are a part of those school districts, but it can be a little off-putting to the Whitmore Lake School District itself. So what do you think? Is this a place you'd live? Why or why not? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you're thinking about making a move to Michigan in one day or a gajillion, I have a link to the Living in Michigan newsletter to give you insight on all things Michigan, so be sure to subscribe so you never miss out. Thanks for watching. Till next time.